Joining us now for our weekly partnership segment, we have David Sirota of The Lever, who has many things to tell us about his Hollywood Oscars experience. Great to see you, David.
Good to see you, David.
Good to see you both.
Yeah.
So two things. First of all, congrats on The Lever, rebranding and expansion, which is very exciting. And also congrats on the Oscar nomination, even though you did not win the award. That's unbelievable that you were nominated for an Oscar and got to go. So let's actually put your latest piece on this up on the screen, because you wrote a little bit about what it was like. You say, the Oscar speech that stayed in my pocket. It was an honor to be nominated for a climate film. We must continue to demand action. So just give us a little bit of your thoughts and reflections on this whole experience, David.
Well, it really was a great honor to be nominated, and I should say it was a really great honor to win the Writers Guild's Award for Best Original Screenplay with Adam McKay. So that was from fellow writers, so that was fantastic. And look, getting nominated is just, it's not a life plot twist I ever expected. So I had a blast in the experience of it, just going to see what that entire spectacle is like. I will admit, I was not in the room when Will Smith and Chris Rock got into it. I had actually stepped out to grab a drink and commiserate with some folks after we didn't win the Oscar. So we were out in the hall sort of lamenting that. But it was all great. I will say I was a little bit maybe not mystified, but a little bit disappointed that the climate crisis did not make any kind of appearance or mention at this huge event where there's millions and millions of people tuning in. I would have liked to have seen that platform be used to mention some of the things that are happening in our world that are of great urgent import, and that wasn't there. But as I put on at The Lever, I put out the speech that I was going to give, and it was basically going to say something very simple, which is that the success of Don't Look Up, the millions and millions of people who tuned in, I mean, it was the #2 most watched movie on the world's largest streaming platform. My hope is that the folks in that room would take a lesson from that to say that there is a huge pent-up demand among millions and millions of people for television shows, movies, journalism, all sorts of content that honestly struggles with the climate crisis that is bearing down on our world. And I would have asked everybody in that room to use their enormous power to continue to make content about that crisis that wrestles with the uncomfortable and scary issues surrounding that crisis.
So, David, in terms of the reaction to the Oscars, it kind of validated your entire movie, didn't it? In terms of like how people are just talking about Will Smith and all that while the world burns. How did you make of it in that context?
I'll admit, at times it felt like I was inside the movie. Like it felt kind of Alice in Wonderland. Like we had made a movie about a comet headed towards Earth and everybody being distracted with celebrity culture, with all sorts of frivolous nonsense. And then I was essentially at the Oscars, a place that could have been in part a platform for a discussion or at least mention of some of the huge crises happening in our world. And instead, the takeaway from the event was a fight between two celebrities. Now, obviously, that situation was incredibly shocking for what it was. But I do think there's that meta message there, which is that there really is this unbelievably powerful culture of distraction, especially when it comes to celebrity culture, that makes it so difficult for us to struggle with, deal with, negotiate, and debate the most imminent and pressing issues of the day. And so I think it's a disturbing commentary on that. And frankly, I don't have a kind of skeleton key answer for how we fix this. I mean, I just came off of doing a movie that millions and millions and millions of people saw, and it culminated with an award show that didn't make any reference of that at all. Now, I don't mean that as like, hey, I'm annoyed or sad or sour grapes of not winning. I was just honored to be nominated. I'm making the larger point of the question of, will the culture industry and obviously the corporate media industry and the political world, are we willing to actually struggle with this crisis in a real way? Or are we really just going to plow forward and distract ourselves as things get worse?
Well, I think there's so much to dig into with this. Honestly, it's quite a profound conversation because what you did prove with Don't Look Up is that there is an appetite to struggle with the big challenges facing the world in a way that is thoughtful and that it doesn't have to be vegetables. It can be a movie with a lot of stars that's actually really fun to watch and really, entertaining. But doing another Will Smith take is easy and it's cheap.
Right.
And it also gets clicks and views and eyeballs. So oftentimes, cable news producers or people in that industry, what they'll say is basically like, well, you guys are getting the content that you want. Because we know if we do, the latest development and, now Chris Rock says he's still processing or whatever the latest take is, we know you're going to look at it. But what you've demonstrated is, while that may be true, there is this desire for this more thoughtful, more profound, more relevant, more important content as well. You just have to have the willingness to actually do the work to make that, into something that people really want to consume.
That's such a good point. I mean, you're right. I mean, one of my takeaways was, how do we make the climate crisis and the end of the livable ecosystem that supports all human life as compelling and interesting as two celebrities fighting on a stage, right? I mean, it's kind of unbelievable that we have to ask that question, but it also is a profoundly, I think, a troubling commentary, perhaps, on the creativity of the news industry. By that I mean, if we can't make the imminent demise of the livable ecosystem as compelling as two celebrities fighting on a stage, then it's really a commentary on us. It's not really a commentary on the audience. It's a commentary on the news industry that says it's not willing to muster the creativity and innovation to make that unbelievably compelling story about the potential end of the human species, to not make that story more compelling. And so I think moving forward, the onus is on all of us to muster that creativity in a systemic way every single day.